For the estimated 1% of the global population living with celiac disease, even the smallest trace of gluten can lead to debilitating symptoms and long-term intestinal damage. A strict gluten-free diet remains the only current treatment, but maintaining it is difficult, isolating, and not always effective, especially when accidental exposures happen. Now, scientific advancements are bringing hope. Researchers are exploring therapies that could accelerate healing, ease symptoms, and perhaps, one day, allow celiac patients to safely tolerate small amounts of gluten. Could any of these therapies replace the gluten-free diet? Let's take a closer look at the most promising drug candidates in development and what they could mean for the future of celiac disease management. First up is IMU 856, a compound from Immunic Incorporated that targets SIRT6, a protein involved in gut barrier repair and inflammation regulation. IMU 856 doesn't stop the autoimmune response to gluten directly, but it may support the intestinal lining's healing process, reducing the risk of complications from accidental gluten exposure. This makes it a potential option for faster recovery and improved gut integrity. However, it's not a green light to eat gluten. This drug won't prevent the immune system from reacting. Currently in phase 2 trials, with results expected in 2024 or 2025, IMU 856 is promising for symptom management and intestinal healing, but not for gluten tolerance. Next is TB 53408 from Teva Pharmaceuticals, a kappa opioid receptor agonist. By activating specific receptors in the gut, this drug aims to reduce inflammation and intestinal permeability. TB 53408 could help manage symptoms like abdominal pain and diarrhea, especially after trace gluten exposure, offering a buffer for accidental contamination. But similar to IMU 856, it doesn't block the autoimmune cascade triggered by gluten ingestion. It's best viewed as a symptom control agent rather than a solution for eating gluten. With phase 2 completed and results pending, this therapy may eventually be used alongside the gluten-free diet to help those who are especially sensitive. Among the most exciting candidates is TK-062, also known as Kuma-062, developed by Takeda Pharmaceuticals. This therapy is a highly potent glutenase, an enzyme that rapidly breaks down gluten before it can provoke an immune response. If taken with meals, TK-062 could neutralize small amounts of gluten, making it potentially life-changing for those who fear cross-contamination when dining out or eating processed foods. While it's not a complete cure, TK-062 offers partial gluten tolerance and is the leading candidate for occasional gluten consumption without triggering symptoms. Currently in phase 2b trials, TK-062 may be on track for FDA approval as early as 2026 or shortly thereafter. Another promising approach comes from Zadira and Falk Pharma, who are developing ZD1227, a transglutaminase 2 (TTG2) inhibitor. In celiac disease, the enzyme TTG2 modifies gluten fragments in a way that makes them more likely to trigger the immune system. ZD1227 aims to block this modification process, preventing gluten from becoming highly immunogenic. Early trials show promise in reducing intestinal damage, but the drug doesn't completely halt the immune response. As a result, ZD1227 is unlikely to enable gluten consumption, though it may help reduce harm from accidental exposure. Phase 2b trials are completed, and the next steps in development are awaited. One of the most innovative therapies under development is CNP 101 from Core Pharmaceuticals. This approach uses nanoparticles to deliver gluten fragments in a way that retrains the immune system to tolerate them, essentially teaching the body not to overreact to gluten. If successful, it could mimic the effects of immune tolerance or even remission, potentially offering a long-term or permanent solution to gluten sensitivity. Of all the therapies in development, CNP 101 has the best chance of allowing full gluten tolerance. It's still in the early stages, with phase 2 trials planned following a promising phase 1 study, but it represents the closest thing to a true cure. Another candidate worth noting is PRV-015, an anti-IL-15 antibody developed by Prevention Bio and now part of Sanofi's pipeline. IL-15 is a cytokine that fuels the immune response in celiac disease, especially in refractory cases where symptoms persist despite a strict gluten-free diet. PRV-015 aims to block this pathway, reducing inflammation and immune activity. While this therapy could help manage more severe or treatment-resistant cases of celiac disease, it does not induce gluten tolerance. Its primary benefit would be symptom control in cases where the diet alone is not enough. Phase 2 trials are completed, though the current status of further development is unclear. So, what does all of this mean for the future of celiac treatment? In the near term, between 2025 and 2027, TK 062 appears to offer the most practical benefits. It could give people with celiac disease a safer margin when dealing with cross-contamination or unintentional gluten exposure, improving confidence and flexibility in daily life. Meanwhile, drugs like IMU 856 and TV 53408 could support healing and reduce ongoing symptoms, especially for those with sensitive or damaged guts. But these medications would not replace the need for a gluten-free diet. Looking further ahead, CNP 101 holds the most promise for an eventual therapy that could allow unrestricted gluten consumption. If it succeeds in retraining the immune system, it could represent a groundbreaking shift in how we treat celiac disease, from strict dietary restriction to immune tolerance. However, given the early stage of development, this kind of breakthrough is still likely years away, potentially arriving in the 2030s. In conclusion, while no current therapy fully replaces the gluten-free diet, the treatment pipeline is more hopeful than ever. Drugs like TAK 062 could offer protection during occasional exposure, while immune-targeting approaches like CNP 101 may one day eliminate the need for dietary vigilance altogether. In the meantime, people with celiac disease can look forward to a future where managing their condition becomes less restrictive, less isolating, and far more manageable. As clinical trials continue and new therapies emerge, the landscape of celiac disease treatment is evolving rapidly. For now, strict gluten avoidance is still necessary, but help may be closer than we think. With science moving forward and pharmaceutical companies investing in meaningful solutions, life beyond the gluten-free diet may no longer be just a dream, but a future in progress.